Essentially, true cost accounting, or food systems externalities, is the way in which the activities of farmers and manufacturers of farming inputs have impacts on the environment and public health, which are not reflected either in the prices farmers receive or consumers pay for the products. And these impacts could be both negative and positive. So for instance, if I farm in a way which produces a lot of apparently cheap food, but I cause damage to the environment, I pollute water, or I have a downstream impact on public health, which treatment costs of which are picked up by others, the food appears cheap, but it isn't really cheap at all because the polluter is not paying. There is not a right attribution of the negative costs associated with that particular farming activity with those who cause it or indirectly cause it. And none of this is to blame the farmers who are doing this. They're simply following their best business case. Conversely, if you are trying to farm with the grain of nature, avoiding damage to the environment, building up soil fertility, promoting healthy people, until now, those benefits have not been adequately reflected in the prices that you receive for your products. The science of true cost accounting is an attempt to identify, categorize, quantify, and then monetize the range of costs and benefits arising from different food and farming systems, and then explore mechanisms which are multiple for ascribing those costs and benefits to the prices, the pricing system. And that could be through redistribution of the Common Agricultural Policy, or in America the Farm Bill. It could be through regulation. It could be through taxation. It could be through insurance. There are many mechanisms for so doing.
Over the next 15 years, our societies, both developed and developing countries, will have to go on a long journey towards sustainability, and we should not look at farming practices only. We also have to look at the economic environment, and that's what we are doing. We would like to look at what are the economic conditions under which farmers can produce in a more sustainable way. We want to look at different production systems in the world and look at all costs and benefits. The traditional and agricultural economics are looking only at the visible costs and benefits. The costs of fertilizers, the cost of mineral oil, the benefits the farmer receives when he or she is selling a liter of milk. But we would also look at the invisible costs and benefits. Pollination is one of the big issues. Without pollination, we cannot produce food. But if a farmer is doing farming in a way that you have a lot of insects and bees, he or she doesn't get money for it. If the farmer is using pesticides and insecticides to destroy pollination, he might, over a short period of time, have higher yields. What we are going to do is we are going to look at the invisible costs of farming and the invisible benefits in terms of clean water, flood control, a big issue here in this country, and not only here, but all over the world. We need farmers to manage our natural resources. Many of the hidden costs of our food system, you can see it after 10 or 20 years in the health sector. If you look at the growing figures of diabetes type 2 in Africa, the figures are growing faster than HIV/AIDS, without making this as a comparison, of course. You will see that no health system in Africa will be able to deal with these figures, and the result is because we have introduced cheap food, which means sugar and fat, and people are coming from hunger directly into a situation where malnourishment will happen and diabetes type 2 will be the result. And therefore, if we look at management of natural resources, the prices of food, the costs of unhealthy food in the health system, we can see that the whole environment for the farmer is distorted. If we don't change the way we are doing farming, the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals will not be possible. And therefore, we need the farmers, but the farmers need a different economic environment. Thank you very much.
So I do think it's interesting, this idea of how we can reward people for doing good, which might not necessarily be through the price that they get for their product. It's other ways. It's looking at CAP. We sort of very much support the 15% on Pillar 2, but I think we need to look at how CAP can go further. So maybe rewarding farmers, as I say, who allow their lands to flood, or rewarding things like the pollination. One of the things that seems to be, the system is so unwieldy at the moment. So I visited an organic farm the other day with a wildflower meadow, and they can't claim subsidies for that because it's a whole meadow, whereas if it was a strip of land with wildflowers on down the side of a field, they could. And yet actually to have one of their fields as wildflower meadows is a really good thing for the environment. I think we've also got to find ways of it becoming so embedded in the way people farm, it doesn't come down to officials coming out with rulers to sort of work out, how wide certain things are and how much of the field you've left unplowed or whatever. It's because that bureaucracy that is attached to applying for, the stewardship scheme and so on is just such a deterrent, I think. The F in DEFRA stands for food, not farming, which doesn't mean to say farming's not important, but it's the whole thing from the field through to the fork. And making that connection, I think, or certainly the figure was quoted me the other day, that £1 in every 10 that's spent in the NHS is now on diabetes.
Yeah.
If George Osborne really cared about reducing the, public spending or reducing unnecessary public spending and freeing up money that you could spend on better things, actually addressing what people eat is a really key part of that.